Hello, hello, hello. So we're gonna skip ahead a little bit. Last time you watched a video, we talked about the early explorers of Canada and kind of the first colonies of Canada. We're gonna zip ahead and talk about kind of the struggle between England and France to control North America. So exploration had made the world seem way bigger than it ever had before. There were new continents that people didn't know had existed, and it seemed like the opportunities to make a bunch of money seemed like there were more of them. So mercantilism is a theory that says that sorry about my chair, trade generates wealth, so there'll be trade between countries. And the mercantilists believe that a country can gain wealth by increasing export, so sending stuff out of the country, and limiting import. So trying to make their own stuff in their country and making enough that they could sell it to other countries. They thought that trade was kind of like war. One side would win, the other side would lose, and there was no kind of in between. Prices were fixed, and they could control prices throughout their empire. So, for instance, Britain could control the price of beaver furs, whether they were being traded in England, in what's now Canada, in India, whatever. From the 17th century onwards, all major European nations adopted imperialism. So they were trying to create an empire that had a lot of different territories. Mostly those territories were there to make them money via trade. But imperialism is the aggressive building of empire. So the Spanish and the Portuguese were the first to really establish trade and claim territory. Pope signed two treaties, the Treaty of Tordesillas and Zaragoza, and that gave Spain and Portugal most of the world. It gave Spain North and South America, besides Brazil and the Philippines. Oh, it also gave Spain the Philippines. And then Portugal, it gave Africa, Asia, and Brazil. I thought I had a map, but I don't. I do, but it's coming up later. So there's your Pope. Other European nations naturally refused to recognize the terms of those treaties. The Pope just decided that the world would belong to Spain and Portugal, and the rest of the world was like, you can't just do that. So here's the map. So all of here was supposed to be the Portuguese part. And there's the line. And then the rest of it, so here and all of here, is the Spanish part. Spain and Portugal were also Catholic, which was really important in this time period. Europe was basically either Catholic or Protestant, and they didn't really get along particularly well. So Spain and Portugal were Catholic, and then the rest of the Protestant world was thinking, well, how are we going to start our own empires so that the whole world doesn't become Catholic? The First Nations and the Inuit of North America had no idea that this war and famine and disease was headed in their direction. Millions of First Nations people died during colonization. So by the mid-18th century, so 1700s, Spain had the largest empire in the Americas, southern South America all the way to British Columbia. So all of this was part of the Spanish Empire. Some islands in here, and there's Spain right there. They were really good at gaining land, as you can see there, but pretty bad at starting colonies. They established one in Nootka Sound, so not so far from here, when they heard that the Russians were in the area trying to find sea otters, another animal that has really nice fur, I guess. But it never really attracted settlers. Nobody wanted to live there. It was only a military outpost, so it was abandoned not too long after. And then the early Dutch colonies. So the Dutch were a little bit different. They had little colonies here, So that's like New York, kind of around there, Maine, Rhode Island probably, some islands, some bits along the coast in South America, and over here. Henry Hudson explored the Hudson River for the Dutch, so that's New York. And they ran their colonies like businesses. They had proprietary colonies, so those were colonies operated by companies who were licensed by the Dutch government. So the Dutch West India Company owned that colony in the West Indies, like around there. And they ran the colony on behalf of the Dutch. And the reason that I said earlier that the Dutch were different was because they were pretty tolerant of different religions. They didn't really care if you were Catholic or Protestant or whatever. New Netherland welcomed everybody.